I took the NCLEX in July 2017 and I passed with 75 questions in only 70 minutes. I bet you wonder how I did it and how you can do it too. First of all, the NCLEX is used to determine if a candidate is a safe and effective nurse at an entry level by testing minimum competency. In general, 74% of all candidates pass the exam on their first try, but only 30% of international candidates do. Even if as a foreign educated nurse you're not as prepared as American nursing grads, you have a lot of clinical nursing experience which gives you a certain advantage. However, I need to tell you as a disclaimer that you should not directly apply your real life experience with the perfect nursing world of the NCLEX. When you're preparing for the NCLEX, the review process is of utmost importance, but since you already have work experience as a registered nurse, you should be able to connect ideas more easily and even learn those strategies to guide your critical thinking in less time than new grads fresh out of nursing school. So in this video, I'll tell you about the NCLEX and share some tips and tricks as well as links to resources that I've found useful myself. I'm gonna start with computer adaptive testing, or CAT, because that's something you've probably never encountered before. There are some specific distinctions between CAT and traditional testing, and it's really important that you understand these differences in order to succeed in the NCLEX. So obviously, because we're talking about computer adaptive testing, you can only take this exam on a computer at an approved test center. In the NCLEX, you'll be presented with questions that you're estimated to answer correctly with a 50% chance. So you get your first question and you're likely to answer it correctly by 50% or incorrectly by 50%. And when you answer incorrectly, the next question you'll be presented with will be slightly less difficult. If you answer correctly, the following question will be slightly more difficult. And this is an important point. You want to answer correctly in order to stay above the minimum competency line. In the NCLEX, you'll have a maximum of 265 questions, and the time limit is set at 6 hours. Unlike in traditional tests, you do not need to answer all 265 questions or sit there for 6 hours in total. This all depends on your performance that you're giving the computer to analyze. And if you're able to prove your competency, you might be able to pass the exam with the minimum number, which is 75 questions. Take your time with each question to read and understand each question so that you'll have a better chance at answering each and every question correctly. And even if you're not able to answer each question correctly, you'll need to focus and give the question your everything instead of rushing and moving forward to hoping that you'll get a better question next time. In order to succeed, in order to pass the NCLEX, it's especially important to start the exam with correct answers, to climb above the minimum line. Because as the test moves on, the confidence interval will begin to get narrower and narrower to be able to predict your competency. Let's say that at the beginning of the test you fall below the line with 6 consecutive incorrect answers. It'll take you the same amount of correct answers to get back at the line. You'll have 50% correct answers and 50% incorrect answers. But even if you have those correct answers, it doesn't really work for you because all those correct answers are below the line, and anything below the line is bad for you. If you get below the line straight from the beginning with so many incorrect and correct answers, you'll already have 5% of 265 questions below the line, and this is too much. If instead at the beginning you climb above that line, you will have more room to make mistakes. It's okay to have incorrect answers if they are above the line. Just make sure that you don't fall below the line with having too many consecutive wrong answers. By the 60th question, there will be enough content covered and the computer will start evaluation. If your performance is subpar with a 95% certainty, at 75 questions you will fail. But if you've proven your competency with the same level of confidence, you will pass with 75 questions. But if instead the computer cannot make a decision, you'll continue to answer questions until a pass or fail can be determined, or until you run out of questions or you run out of time, whichever comes first. If at 6 hours you've not answered 265 questions, that's fine. That doesn't mean that you've necessarily failed. When you run out of time, the computer will analyze the last 60 questions answered and determine a pass or fail based on these 60 answers. If you answer all 265 questions, you need to answer the last question correctly or else you will fail. Sometimes it might help to visualize a similar real-life scenario, but don't be fooled to necessarily follow the same pattern as you had in that past situation, because again, I'll remind you that the NCLEX is the perfect world of nursing. My number one advice is to read the question, read the answer choices, then reread the question again, reread the answer choices again. Make sure that you understand what is being asked. And if you can, rephrase the question into a simple form and in terms that you understand. Make sure you use your critical thinking skills. The funny thing is that in the NCLEX, all the answer choices might be correct, but when you look at the question itself, you'll notice that there are keywords like what's the first intervention that you would do in this and this situation. I cannot stress enough the importance of reading and then rereading the questions and all the answer choices. But while you're still in the review process, I'd like you to analyze the mistakes that you make when you're having practice tests or questions. Ask yourself, do you rush? Do you make assumptions? Do you read something extra into the question? Something that is not mentioned? Do you overanalyze? Do you rely too much on real-life experiences that you have had in the past? When you're dealing with the NCLEX world, you need to remember that you have perfect resources and you don't need to worry about pending tasks, because only the scenario or scenarios mentioned in the question are of your concern at that time. There's nothing else going on. So you need to focus on the information that is mentioned in the question and in the answer choices. You can never add anything to it. You should never ask what if. And finally, when you get to prioritization questions, look at the keywords. Is it asking you what's the most important intervention? Is it asking what's the first intervention? In these prioritization questions especially, you'll notice how the NCLEX is sort of trying to fool you. There's this meme online and it says something along the lines of all the answer choices are correct, but only one of them is most correct. And this is why you need to pay attention to the keyword that is used in the question. With regards to prioritization questions, some helpful strategies are the ADPI, ABC, and Maslow's hierarchy. ADPI, of course, refers to assessment, diagnosis, planning, intervention, and evaluation. If you have assessment mentioned in the question, your answer should be diagnosis, and so forth. ABC refers to airway, breathing, circulation. Let's say you have a patient with obstructed airway. You will not check their circulation before you have cleared their airway. And then last but not least is Maslow's hierarchy. The idea behind this pyramid is that you will attend to basic needs first and patient education, for example, to last. Let's say you have to prioritize 4 patients. One of them needs medical intervention for whatever reason, and one of them is about to be discharged home and needs patient education about medication, for example. Because the medical issue with your patient is more pressing, you will need to attend to that patient first, and then you can leave the patient education last. Patient safety and comfort is not of such concern as with, say, difficulty breathing, or pain. So all in all, it's important to review content while keeping in mind a certain mindset, the need to think critically. We as international nurses are already working as nurses. It's really a great idea to apply whatever you learn in the NCLEX process to your work as a nurse, because this will help you retain more of the information that you're learning. It will also make you a better nurse while you're still practicing in your home country or wherever you live right now. As international nurses, we don't have to study so much of the content. Instead, you should focus on learning what the NCLEX is, how the questions are presented, and how you're supposed to answer. So it's really important to learn to think critically. It's important to learn some strategies that will help guide you in choosing the right answer while you're taking the NCLEX. While you're reviewing for the NCLEX, it's really important to answer a lot of questions so that you will get the hang of the actual NCLEX. When I was reviewing, I used the NCLEX RN Mastery app. I'd say you shouldn't think of the NCLEX as either easy or difficult. The NCLEX is unlike any exam you've ever taken. It's constantly adapting to your answers. With each correct answer, you will get a more difficult question. With each incorrect answer, you will get a less difficult question. You just need to review the content, learn to think critically, learn some strategies. Take your time while in the exam room answering each question, because the time is not your enemy. Give your best performance for the computer to analyze, stay focused, and you need to have confidence in yourself. I feel that many foreign educated nurses forget that the NCLEX is used to determine if you're a safe and effective nurse at an entry level. It feels like international nurses are so nervous about the NCLEX, and they forget that they've been practicing nursing for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, and they are good nurses. They just need to shift their thinking a little bit, because no one has ever taken an exam that is similar to the NCLEX. So finally we get to the day of the exam. My advice to you would be to obviously have a good night's sleep. When you wake up in the morning, take a shower and eat a nutritious breakfast, something that will help you focus during the exam. Make sure that you're prepared to take the exam, and make sure that you get to the test center on time. I'd really suggest that you leave your phone and any other study materials behind when you leave whatever place that you were staying in the night before. The reason for this is because when you feel nervous, you might want to check something, and when you check that one thing, you will realize that there's another thing that you do not know, and you will start to panic, and this panic mode is no way to start the NCLEX. Rather, as I said, you should sleep well, you should eat well, you should be on time, and you should remain calm and confident so that you can succeed and pass the exam with 75 questions. When you get to the test center, they will check your passport. From the reception, you will be taken to another person who will check your passport again, and he or she will let you inside the exam room. They will open the program for you. You will sit down, and whenever you feel ready, you will start the test. First, you will be taken through instructions, but you should not spend too much time on this part, because all of those minutes that you use going through the instructions will be counted towards the 6 hours. After the instructions, you will start the exam. Take your time to read each question and to read all the answer choices. Take your time, because time is not your enemy. Only incorrect answers are your enemy. You will want to focus on each question to make sure that you answer it to the best of your ability, to make sure that you have the best chances of answering the question correctly. If you start to feel like your focus is slipping away, if you start yawning, if you're hungry, please take a break. Take a break. Go to the bathroom, wash your face, have something to drink, walk a little bit to have your circulation running again. And then finally, when you finish with the exam, you'll need to raise your hand and wait to be escorted out of the room. After your exam is over, you might experience a release of built-up tension. You might get emotional, you might cry, cry, you might be angry at yourself, whatever it is. But because you have studied so intensively for so long, and because you just took this huge exam that is very determining of your future, I'd say now is the time to pamper yourself. Go for a walk, listen to music, go eat something, whether it's lunch or dinner, go to a movie, go to an art gallery, do whatever helps you take your mind off of the NCLEX, because now the burden is off your shoulders and the results will come in whenever, and there's nothing you can do anymore. For a small fee of $7.95, you can get the quick results, the unofficial results in 48 hours after the exam, but the official results should come in after a month. I was really lucky because I got my license from the state of Colorado 36 hours after I finished the exam. This 36 hours is less than the 48 hours that they usually require before they will release quick results. No idea why I got my license so quickly, but I'm really glad I did, because even if I was really confident about my exam performance, it was finally having that email from Colorado that put my mind to rest. If you have any questions or concerns, please type them down below and I'll get back to you. Bye!
No one can touch me now. I'm just flying by. Yeah, I'm just flying by.